Hi, my name is Preston Crowder and I'm a third year at Oberlin College. We sat down with some of the members from the upcoming production of Dessa Rose to get their opinions on the show as actors and as their characters. Remember, Dessa Rose opens February 5th and runs through the 8th, and tickets are on sale now at Central Ticketing Services. So director Caroline Jackson-Smith was recently interviewed, and she stated, "I think we have a tendency to sanitize and forget history. I think there is a tendency to look at contemporary disturbances as if they came out of nowhere. So the first thing that informs a lot of my work is simply trying to keep telling the story of people of African descent, particularly in the United States. And what this says to me is that we as a people, as a nation, we have to continue to look to our past because it inherently informs our future. So I would like to ask you two, how has this story influenced your personal relationship to the history of the United States, and how has it affected your understanding of the present?"
Living in the South myself, there are a lot of very similar traits between the character Dessa Rose and myself. And even though we live about 200 years apart, I still find myself feeling uncomfortable walking into stores sometimes, or feel like I'm being watched because people are afraid of me and don't really know what to think because of the color of my skin.
Having family that I could trace back, like through America, back to like slavery, it's like very, it's a weird feeling to just know that, like, as Amber stated like before, just like had I been born like at a separate time in life, or like at a separate time in like America's history, like I would be in a completely different situation right now.
Well, I feel like a lot of what it's shown me is just that injustice and oppression is never an isolated incident. We like to just kind of sugarcoat the past and say the past is the past and we are past it, and just look on ahead and say we're in an age of colorblindness.
This didn't come out of nowhere.
Right.
And Dessa Rose is still so relevant. And even though it is about actual slavery and being on a coffle as a slave and having people constantly whipping you and branding you, it's coming in a different form in 2015.
That's why I find that it's so important that we are doing something like this, because it brings back these painful things that we never like to talk about or consider, and forces us to evaluate what exactly that means for our lives and moving forward.
So I found out that through this experience and sort of learning more of the true atrocities and sort of getting into these characters and seeing how this system affected people during that time, then coming back out and looking at the effects that system still has today and what that system did to people who now live in America, and how the prejudices that were invoked in that time still heavily exist today. And it's so important to look back at that history and then look at the present and the future through that lens. Because if you don't, it's really easy to just put on your blinders and look forward and just distract yourself with the progress that we've made and forget about all the work that there still is to do,
In a lot of the extra learning we've done, thanks in large part to our wonderful dramaturg, we have, there were a lot of people who mentioned being surprised by how many slave revolts took place. Like the sense of agency that the slave characters in this play have, and I think us in particular, but the other ones too, showing slaves as capable people as opposed to just like played out archetypical stereotypes is rare in any sort of media we have nowadays. So
talked a lot through our discussions of dramaturgy and lots of articles about the power of the human voice to tell this story. So to hear Tiffany sing the songs she sings about, there's 12 children, there's so many songs in the show that deal with the pain of slavery. Maybe, it's in the moment, right after some things happen in the show, or whether her character is processing something. That's a lot to go through as an actor. And so I think one way that we've been sort of educating ourselves throughout the process and keeping ourselves safe is, as a cast, really trying to make sure that healing is a part of our process as actors too. Taking on a role like Dessa, or like any of the enslaved men and women characters who are portrayed, my character just has to put on some petticoats and take off some petticoats, and that can be hard, but it's also an example of privilege in the cast of like, what do I, you know, I'm not the one being whipped on stage. And so as a cast, we need to make sure that we're keeping everyone safe, but, you know, making sure that the people who have to go through that in our cast, the Black cast members, really feel supported and safe.
I know for me, it's been a source of growth in seeing the ways in which allyship is messy, and Miss Caroline has done a very good job of expressing these things as well, because a lot of the issues that we have with allyship, that we're having to work through with allyship now, is paralleled in the play with Dessa Rose and with Ruth, and some of the things that you have to work out, and it's always a point of growth, because people would like to think that you can just mesh together and forget everything, and oh, we can just come together and work without having to dissect a lot of the foundational and fundamental things that have gone wrong. Like, I can't sit as a Black woman and engage you as a white woman just on a surface level if we want to get to the bottom of what's been going on in the history of the United States and the world for a long time.